Welcome if you've joined us for the Dogs Today Facebook Live interview with the fantastic Debbie Matthews. Now, I think we're here now. Right, yes. Right, Debbie, would you like to introduce yourself, say so the people can see you?
Right, I'm here, Debbie Matthews. I'm from Vets Get Scanning and Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance.
Brilliant. Oh, I probably should say who I am. A bit of a clue behind me. I'm Beverley Cuddy, editor of Dogs Today, and I'm also patron of Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance, which Debbie was one of the co-founders of. Now, I should explain, if you've only just joined us, we are 20 seconds into the future. So if you say something on Facebook, we won't see it for a little while. So we're not being rude. It's just very difficult. So now you know we're live, but we're not live. We're going to start by establishing what it was that changed Debbie's life 14 years ago. Now, Debbie, it's horrible to bring this up, but it has kind of been a motivator in, every waking moment since. So you were shopping in Marks and Spencer's, and it was 14 years ago. So if we go back in time, this was a time when, we were relatively unaware of any issue of leaving your dogs just for a few minutes while you nipped into the shops. So tell me what happened, what actually you came out to find.
Well, like loads of people, as you said, many people just had, you would pop into the shop and leave your dog in the car. You wouldn't even think about it twice. I'd done it my whole life, but I didn't even think anything was wrong with it. Obviously, it wasn't a hot day and it wasn't boiling hot, but it just wasn't something you thought about, leaving your dogs in the car. Went into Marks. I was going to have tea with my dad, and I went in to get some fancies and biscuits and bits and bobs. And when I came out of the car park, you could see the car from the store, and it was the big store at Camberley in Meadows, is it?
Yes, yeah. the massive Marks and Spencer's.
Massive, and always busy. There's security guards walking around, there's car washers. It's just a busy place. I wouldn't have thought twice. I didn't think twice about it. As I walked out of the store, I could see two men standing by my car, and I thought, my God, Widget and Gizmo are going to go mad. What on earth are they doing there? And as I was walking towards them, I could see the reflection from the driver's window of the car was gone. And then I started to run, and I don't know if anybody's ever been in that panic situation where everything goes into slow motion and you're running, but you're not getting to where you want to get to. Finally got there. I said, what's happened? What's happened? She said, your car window's been smashed. The police are waiting to hear from you. What did you leave in your car? I said, my dogs. Where are my dogs? They both looked in the car. Obviously, they weren't there. And they put me through to the police, and the upshot of the police was they were just saying to me, what did you leave in your car that was valuable? And I said, my dogs were in my car. But no, did you leave your handbag? Did you leave your purse? Did you leave a laptop? I said, my dogs were in the car. Well, they could have stolen your laptop and the dogs could have jumped out. I said, no, they're Yorkshire Terriers, they're too small to. And this conversation was just getting worse by the moment. And it ended with them saying, well, as it's only dogs, we won't come out. And I don't know if you can imagine what that moment felt like. It was just, soul destroying. I mean, they were my world, they're part of my family, and as it's only dogs, we won't come out.
So you were on your own in the supermarket, and now I have been in floods of tears at this point and not actually making any sense, because that is just so unhelpful. That somebody has just diminished what's happened and said they're only dogs. What did you do? You mentioned you were going to have tea later with your dad. No,
I was actually quite close to where he lived, so but they took me into the store because obviously I couldn't drive the car in the state it was in. It needed to have some repair on the window for me to move it, and went into the behind where all the food were. There's like a staff room there, and I went in an office there, and they phoned the police again. I phoned my father because he was the closest to come and get me, and I just wept down the phone. He couldn't understand what had happened. I just said, the dogs have gone, can you come and get me? I'm at Marks and Spencer's. And he was straight there. He came and got me. And we spoke to the police again at Marks and Spencer's, and we found, because we were on the corner of 3 counties, we had to phone each police force individually to let them know. And then they told me I had to get my microchip number, and I God knows where they were, and all those things that you suddenly get told you need in a panic situation. But anyway, I walked out of Marks and Spencer's with my father, and I was just crying my eyes out. And I said to Daddy, they're gonna think I've been shoplifting. It's gonna be the headline. Bruce's daughter steals clothes from Marks and Spencer's or something.
We should point out, because not everybody knows who your dad was. So it would have caused quite a stir, him turning up, because I've been in places with you in the past where, yes, when your dad arrived somewhere, people stop and they go, oh my goodness, because he's absolutely was beloved by so many. So your father, that was the wonderful Bruce Forsyth. So when he turned up, did people start treating you slightly differently in Marks and Spencer's, or was it still only a dog, or dogs, as far as the authorities were concerned?
Well, the staff at Marks and Spencer's were very helpful and very supportive, and were lovely, and they were surprised when my father walked into the office. Obviously they didn't know, and I hadn't thought to tell them. I was in such a terrible state, you know, and then he walked in the door. But we then got the different police forces on the phone, and he thought by adding his weight to it that
Yes.
maybe more action would be done.
Yes.
Their concern was that I'd been followed, that it was a targeted theft. And because a couple of, I think it was probably about 2 months before that, Lionel Blair's dog had just been stolen.
Right.
And he'd gone public straight away, but his dog was never found. Florence, she disappeared off the face of the earth.
Oh.
And so that was their first concern, the police. But after that, we didn't hear from the police again, really. But when I got back to my father's house, I knew where the microchip numbers were because we had them on pet passport. So I had the numbers. So we went back because we were living in London at the time. This is in Wentworth now. So we went back, didn't sleep, of course.
No.
Went on the internet, and the internet in those days, you forget.
Wow.
There was hardly anything. You didn't have social media, you know, trying to find out about dogs and theft and what to do, who do I contact? The police had given me 2 numbers for the microchip, 2 different microchip companies back then. And both numbers weren't answering. So I thought, well, obviously they're going to open up in the morning. I found during the night, I found Dog Lost, which amazingly was started that long ago. I think Jane started in 2004, and my dogs were stolen in 2006. So
very early days then.
Yeah, but it was a website which you could see had all the information there for you. I could put in the names of the dogs, where they were taken from, upload a photograph, and hey presto, there was a poster. So I now had posters. Then I thought, well, now I've got to get them to the printers because I've got to get back to where they were taken to get the posters up.
Yes.
And that was that was the start of what I'm still here today. So I'm still campaigning for people. You can't walk away from this. It's devastating, absolutely devastating.
My dog many years ago was not stolen but was lost, and I got the call after a long journey, because it had been the day before my father's funeral, and it was my parents' house that somebody had left the gates open. The dog sitter had left the gates open, and the dog had gone missing. And even though I was bereft because my father had died, the dog being lost and I'm not knowing where it is, and anybody else who loves their dog, just imagine what this feels like, because this is what happened to Debbie. That moment where you go, where are they? I don't know who has them. I don't know why they've taken them. So tell everybody what happened next, because time must have, really started to go at a different speed, because Dog Lost were probably advising you what to do, and doglost.co.uk, free service, still now huge, really huge, and a brilliant service. But they were able to give you some insight, I presume, and were guiding you a little what to do. But what did your dad do, and how did that help?
Well, I spoke to Jane that first morning, the following morning, and I didn't tell her about my father at first. We just said about the dogs, that they'd gone missing. And then Daddy had a television about 2 days later, and he said, should he go on and say that the dogs had been stolen? What should we do? So I phoned Jane up and I said, look, my father's Bruce Forsyth. He's on, I think he was going on to this morning. And he wants to know, should he talk about the dogs? And her advice was no, don't say anything. If they're 7 years old, they're neutered, they'll be sold on, they won't be used for breeding. You want them to sell the dogs on. So give it a week. So we took her advice. I went out and I still posted, and I'm standing at Marks and Spencer's giving, I think we did about 5,000 posters in a few days. The press got hold of the story after about 3 or 4 days, because obviously they'd seen my father in the store. Somebody had phoned up and said he was with somebody who was crying in Marks and Spencer's. Then they saw the posters, so 2 and 2 together. I think it was the Mirror that got us first, and we said, look, we've been asked to be quiet for a week. Can you give us a week? Give us till next Wednesday. And they did. They didn't say anything. We promised we would talk to them first. And that's what we did. We went with the newspaper first. Then Natasha Kaplinsky, who'd just done Strictly with Daddy, phoned up to say, could we do a slot on BBC News that evening, which we did. And then we had GMTV the following morning, who did a piece with us live at the house for them both. And that first morning we did the appeal. The man who'd bought Widget from a market in Southall, a livestock market in Southall, was watching the programme, and it was Widget. And thank God they just had the haircut, so they were very distinctive, because a Yorkshire Terrier looks like a Yorkshire Terrier. He had this bob, very smart bob, and he just looked wonderful, Widget. And the guy said, I thought he looked too good to be true, to be, just a dog that had been discarded. But that morning we got Widget back. We did a follow-up the following morning, and the lady who'd bought Gizmo in Hayes Park was watching that morning, and we got Gizmo back. So I was so lucky. It's only 9 days and 10 days after they were taken. So that was a very short time compared to other people.
But I remember my dog was missing for 5 days, and that was the longest 5 days of my life. So any days is just unimaginable.
You don't sleep, you don't eat.
No.
You are totally consumed with trying, what can you do? What can you do?
It's a member of your family. It's not just a dog. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's back then, because I think now people accept dogs are part of the family, but I must admit, I was found that when I just completely just went up to Liverpool and was walking around late at night looking for dogs and crying and doing a good impression of somebody who was deadly insane. But other people were saying, well, you've got to give up at some point. It's an old dog. There's no way it's surviving. And I was going, no, no, I will keep going till I find this dog. And I now know that everyone else feels like that too. So you were, what was it like seeing the dogs again? Because I love watching the reunification videos we see online of people being reunited. Were your dogs quite traumatized by being stolen?
Widget was hiding under a bed. I went into this man's flat and he was, Widget, and he came running out and I grabbed him and that was wonderful. Widget was fantastic. Gizmo was very different. Gizmo was being held by this woman in her arms and he saw me And I was very calm and quiet, and he didn't move a muscle. It was really strange for him, because he was probably he was the smaller one and more of the baby one. And you could just see the trauma that he'd been through. And the lady had said that she'd been walking through the park. The reason she bought him was that this man was with a young child, and he was throwing the dog up in the air and letting it drop to the ground. And well, you know how you treat your dogs. They're like precious jewels, aren't they? You know, you pamper them, you care for them, that you cosset them. I mean, and to know that. And she was telling me, as he's sitting in her arms, all I wanted to do was grab him.
Yes.
And she was just holding him. I just wanted to get him. And eventually I got hold of him, and we walked to the car, because my father had taken me there to pick him up. And we had Widget in the car, and the first thing he did was growl at Widget. So I thought, well, that must be okay. If he's growling at Widget, then we'll be okay. But that night we drove home. We went back to Daddy's, and then we drove home. And it was like we'd been in a dream. It was really a surreal time for us all, the exhaustion and what we'd been through, and we were back together again.
Yes.
It's the most incredible feeling, but it took time. It took time for the boys. They were quite bad. We actually got Victoria Stilwell in. We did a It's Me or the Dog program.
Right.
And
because Victoria.
Gizmo was attacking anybody in a baseball cap and a rucksack. So that was his way of telling me that's the guy who did it.
Yeah.
So she gave me some wonderful tips, because I literally just barricaded myself in home and went out very occasionally.
Yeah.
I was frightened of the outside world. I didn't want to let it back in again.
I think that's something that we see now with all the new cases, is that very often this is the first brush people have had with law and order and something bad happening to them. And I think it does change your view of the world, because it's something's happened to your family. That's what it feels like, that the bad world is out there, and it does take an awful lot to get over it. And even when you've got your dogs back, it takes a while to stop thinking at any minute now. You want everyone to be in your family to be in the same place so you can keep an eye on them, because you think, oh no, I can't bear that happening ever again to anybody I love.
I was overprotecting them. I was overdoing it and making it the situation worse. So when Victoria came and she said, "You're making the situation worse now," that made me feel, I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? But she was so right. She was so right. And we had great years after with them. I mean, I was very lucky, very, very lucky.
One of the things you found out when you first knew the dogs were missing was that the microchip, you originally thought microchip, that's going to help me get my dogs back. And like most people, microchip sounded fantastic, didn't it? That, what was your understanding? Because you've explained this to me brilliantly the first time I heard you talk about it, that from your perspective, when you had first had the dogs microchipped, you thought everything was automatic, and that from then onwards, the vet would keep your records up to date. What did you find out?
Well, when I spoke the first night when I spoke to Petlog, they were on Petlog database, and she said to me, "Are your details up to date?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Let me just check." She read out the address, and I said, "Oh no, I've moved." So she said, "Well, then you have to pay to update your details." I said, "But I thought that every time I went to the vet, because they were on pet passports, that I would register them at the vet, and that was me updating my microchip details." I had no idea about microchips. I just thought they were this magic thing. And if my stolen dogs walked into a vet practice, I almost imagined that bells would ring, and the flashing lights would go. They're here, they're stolen dogs. But I was absolutely shocked. It was Jane Hayes from Dog Loss who said to me, when she said to me, "They're 7 years old, they'll be sold on." I thought, "Oh, great, because they're microchipped, I'll get them back." She said, "Well, no." She said, "Vets don't scan new pets at registration." And I said, what do you mean? And I'm still saying the same thing today. Can you believe it? 14 years later. And it just beggars belief, you know. And that was it. They were microchipped in 1999. So they've been selling us microchips for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they've done the most wonderful job telling us to microchip, be responsible owners, you'll get your dog back, all these wonderful things you believe. But when it comes down to the crux of it, when you actually want your dog and microchip to be scanned, they don't have time. They don't want to get involved in ownership disputes. They don't want to cause any upset for anybody. This is my dog. No, there is no excuse on earth that these chips aren't scanned.
I think as well, we don't really, there's no public information on what microchipping is about. You just know you have to do it. And I think people imagine it's almost magical, some of the things it can do. And it's actually really basic, because the chip that's inside your dog only has a number that and you need a special scanner to detect it. And all it does is it tells you that number. And then you have to phone up a database to find out the dog that's attached to the record. The person scanning, they can go beep, oh, it's got a microchip, but that's not actually checking the database. So it can be that you think you're having your chip checked when you go to see the vet. They may rush one of those things over it. But what they aren't doing is looking on a computer, because I think it was the National Dog Wardens Association said even before it was the law for us to microchip dogs, 40%, only 40% of dogs who had a chip had complete records on the system. 60%, there was no contact details. And that can be that it's a mistake, it could be an admin error, or somebody's just forgotten to input it, or someone's been doing a lot of inputting and has inputted it into someone else's number. So if you're not getting someone to check that your record on the database is correct, that chip is useless, no matter who scans it or doesn't scan it. And I think that's something that many of us have never checked our own dog's chip details until they're missing. So what would you advise people to do? Because it's not that easy now, is it? Because when you had this happen to you, there were 2 databases. There are 13 now, aren't there? Is it 13? I haven't checked for a few days. It might be 15 by now. So that's
a real mess. The database issue is terrible. The worst part of it is that there's a database called UK Pet Registry, which is the first database that comes up. If you Google microchip my pet, it's the first microchip database that you'll see. They charge you £15, you register your dog, but it's a Canadian company, and if that chip gets scanned in the UK, it comes up as unregistered. The government know about it, they can't stop it. We put warnings up on our Facebook pages all the time. You've got to be on one of the 13 databases that DEFRA have approved. So it's really, really important. You can check it. It's checkachip.co.uk. If you go down our Facebook pages and things, we've always got stories and asking people to update their details. But all the this is another area that the vets could actually help, because all the imported puppies that come into this country are microchipped by law because they have to have the pet passport. Yeah. But then not one of them are registered on a UK database. But are the new owners told that they have to register on new databases? No. No. So there's no information to carry through to the clients. You know, I helped with BVA to do a poster to are your microchip details up to date, which should be in every single vet. You can ask the vet nurse to scan the chip to check for you. It's not hard. The solutions to these problems are easy if people are willing to help with everything. You know, it's just heartbreaking, really, that the help's not there for people.
Mm-hmm. So that we're getting ahead now, because I went off on microchips. So you've got your dogs back. Most people would go back to just living their lives. Because what were you doing? Were you working, or were you a mum? What, or both? It can be both.
I've been doing a bit of PA work for my father, organising golf things and his social calendar more than anything else. We'd been living in Spain for a little while, but I was backwards and forwards. And it was Richard, my husband, who said to me, if there was one thing you could change, what would it be? And I said, well, I would get vets to scan all dogs that came into them and check their microchip registration. And he said, well, why not try? So I thought, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to be that difficult, because on my first outing, I was invited by Dog Theft Action to Crufts. And there was a wonderful gentleman who came up to the stall. I was collecting signatures. Even back then, I was trying to get petition signatures. And his name was, oh God, I can't remember what his name is. It will come to me. But he was
a white president, like a professor.
No.
No, not Robert Killick then. No.
I got an award from him.
No, I know. That's what I thought.
And he said, oh, he didn't look like the normal craft person walking around. And he said, I've been going on about this for years. So I said, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for signing the petition. And it turned out that he was a BVA president.
Oh, wow. Oh.
And he was quite high up and very respected. Mm-hmm. And then I met Chris Lawrence, who was involved with Dogs Trust. And I was introduced to him and Clarissa, and I was introduced, oh, Debbie's dogs were stolen. he said, dogs aren't stolen, they get lost. And I said, no, mine were stolen because I got them back. They were sold on, and his face. And a lot of people at that time hadn't realized what was happening, but I had the whole circle. I had my dog stolen. My car was broken into, which proved that they'd been stolen, because that's another big problem for people. I'd actually got them back from people who'd bought them, so I could prove that they were actually stolen, which a lot of people at that time were just going, dogs don't get stolen.
Yeah, there were lots of people who were non-believers. I must admit, I was fairly skeptical at the start, because I was thinking, why would people steal dogs? And it took me a while to work out, because there's no punishment. That's why. And that's pretty depressing, really. It's only when you start looking into it, you go, oh, I can now understand why pets are at such risk. So you saw, was it John Bauer, the vet that you met, a TV vet was also the president? We're going to guess that BVA president.
I'm going to have to think of what his name was. He was wonderful.
There was a lovely chap who helped get rid of
very tall, slim and elegant.
Oh, well, that actually narrows it down, but I've no idea.
I'll have to work it out. I'll have to think.
But he was a very nice man anyway. So you got lovely. You realised that other people had also realised that there's something desperately wrong here. So yes. You didn't realise you were signing yourself up for 14 years of hard labour. You thought, this is so obviously wrong. Someone will take it on and fix it, and you can. And your dad, bless him, helped you by letting you call Vets Go. It's still called Bruce Forsyth's Vets Get Scanning.
In memory of, yes.
Yes.
Well, I've never ever used my father for anything in my whole life. In fact, if anything, it always goes against you if you've got a famous parent, because a lot of people, well, they just don't have time for you. They think you're, I don't know what it is, but it has caused problems in the past. Oh. And so this was a thing that we could work together on. I mean, still all those years later, when he was walking around Virginia Water, people would still say to him, "Oh, I'm so pleased you got your dogs back." So it was one of those stories that lived with him as well.
Yes.
he was so delighted about the outcome and what had happened. It really touched so many people. So he was wonderful. I mean, and
he was very
really,
proud.
he got the campaign noticed. A lot of people, you know, there were, you know, there's been lots of different campaigns for microchipping over the years, and it's just keeping going, keeping focused. And there is only one answer that we want. We want everybody to go, yes, we will scan microchips and check their registration.
And we want it all sorted out, because they're threatening to bring it in for cats next, aren't they? And they haven't sorted it out for dogs. So, no. But there is an inquiry going on, isn't there? Is it DEFRA or EFRA that are doing an investigation into microchipping?
No, it's DEFRA.
Oh, DEFRA.
So they've been doing this. The Cats Protection have actually brought in the movement to get for compulsory cat microchipping. They know all the problems. I've worked with Jackie Clough a long time. So they know all the issues, and privately everybody is saying to me, well, why aren't they doing it? What's the problem? What's the reason? And there's not a good reason. I can't give anybody a reason why, but they say that they don't have the authority to do it. So that's why we've gone with the government now to try and get the legislation there, because if it's made law that they have to scan and check the microchip registration, then they'll do it. They can't do it themselves. They can't tell their own vets to do it. Every vet sets their own practice policy. And that's how it's always been. So this is our only route now.
Yeah. You were quite early on getting petitions going, and I'm not sure when the official parliamentary petitions started, but did you have one of the early ones that was debated, or because there's photos of you at 10 Downing Street, and it was quite a while ago, because there was the wasn't it David Cameron who was Prime Minister, or was there someone else Prime Minister when you first ended up in 10 Downing Street?
Well, there's a funny story. What happened was that not long after we started the campaign, I was contacted by Andrew Rosendale MP.
Oh, right.
And he was wanting to do an EDM. And for those of you who don't know what an EDM is, it's where an MP will select a topic and they'll write a little bit about it. It'll be seconded and thirded by different MPs. And then other MPs will sign that EDM to show their support for it. And it's a way of getting things put forward. This was before petitions.
Oh, right, yes. Andrew, I remember Andrew, he had a Staffordshire Bull Terrier that used to wear a Union Jack coat when he was campaigning.
Right.
Yeah, and he was young in those days. I seem to remember.
Well, he's been going with me for 14 years as well. So.
Yeah.
So that was our start, really, and it just so happened that we were invited then to Parliament, and we went on a Wednesday Prime Minister's Question Time, because my father just loved politics. I mean, what he would think now, God only knows, but he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and so we were invited, and we were invited to the side room afterwards, and David Cameron and Osborne came in to meet us, and he said during the little chat that we had, oh, well, we've got to get microchipping sorted out. So they got the microchipping in, but they left the scanning out. So, but we got halfway. But Andrew was thrilled that we got that recognition from him, that he was willing to help. And I think Osborne actually had 2 stolen cats at the time, 2 missing cats.
Really?
So he understood completely. He got one of the cats back. A couple of years later, but he understood the problem.
I think he had a Bichon, a dog, because I remember one of our contributors trained it, and she wasn't allowed to tell anybody, and she said it was terribly exciting going into 11 Downing Street, because I think he was in number 11 in those days, and but she couldn't tell anyone. It's just like, but it shows you politicians are human, and that they're pet owners too. So you'd think that.
Well, the support we've had with as you've seen, with the pet theft reform petitions and the dog theft awareness days we've had in Parliament, it's been wonderful. I mean, MPs signing boards, photographs with stuffed dogs, and through, they'll do anything. They really have been wonderful. And I think the public forget that actually MPs will pick up these stories. If you write to your MP and tell them you're not happy about something, it gets picked up. It really does.
Yes, I think that's what we've probably all learned in the last 14 years, me 30 years of gradually working out how politics work, because I think from the outside it looks terribly difficult to get anyone to listen, but pets open doors, because I think now the politicians have worked out that it's one of those cross-party subjects that is going to make them very popular on the doorstep if they do something. So it's becoming almost trendy for them to become a little greener, a little more animal friendly.
Well, at a time with so much doom and gloom and that's going on, to say these things to help pet owners, to make pet theft reform, new laws put in place to stop it, to make your dog more valuable than a £500 secondhand mobile phone. It's not rocket science what we want them to do, and to get the microchipping system working isn't that hard either.
No.
It's just keeping pushing, push that we just, and I feel now, because they're doing the review of the microchipping, that we're in with a chance. If we can just get these petitions over the 100,000 signatures, I think that people will take notice, but it's they're always hard petitions to get, because people believe that you've microchips, everything's okay.
Yes,
that's what we've been told.
It is a complicated message in a way, because you're I've tried this out recently on people who have no knowledge whatsoever of dogs, pets, and when they hear how badly the family pet is looked after, they're really shocked. And I think that's the thing we need to get over to people, is this is really outrageous, and that maybe they don't need to know all the details. The politicians need to sort it out, but we need to tell the politicians exactly what they need to do, and we can do that, because Debbie, you've been at this for 14 years. You now know what's broken and what needs fixing, and you can just tell them, and suddenly they're heroes. But there are a lot of petitions out there at the moment. Can we go through all the petitions we've ever had? Let's work it out. What was the first petition you did? That was for scanning. Was that right?
Yeah, when the main petitions, because I was collecting paper signatures originally, I must have got about 60,000 paper signatures from going to Crufts and Discover Dogs and dog shows and things. Then they did the online petition site, and that was really difficult, but you had a year to get, I think it was 50,000 signatures at the start.
It was quite low.
And then a couple
of years still. Yeah.
And then they changed it to 6 months and 100,000, because they said, well, if you've got something you should have something that is easily for people to pick up on. So with all the COVID petitions, they've got 1 million signatures. 600,000 signatures, but trying to explain to someone to help their own dog is really strange, because we've done the Lucy's Law for puppy farm dogs. You got Finn's Law for the police dogs. We've just seen the BSL petition reach 100,000 signatures, which is brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
Very good.
Gizmo's Legacy, which was another cat one for councils to not throw dead cats into landfill, to scan them, which awful,
horrible,
terrible. Why you need a petition for something like that? They made the 100,000 mark. They've had their debate, and her MP, Helena's MP, is really working hard on still pushing that through. So this all helps with the microchipping. And then we've got the vets, but we also want the rescues to scan as well, because we get the stories of the rescues who rehome that don't cross-check hand-ins. So if I take in a dog to the rescue, they assume that I'm the microchip owner. I sign the paperwork, and then they just sign it over to someone else. And if I've found the dog or kept the dog, or someone's given me the dog, they don't know that that dog might be stolen. They don't cross-check. It's the simple, as I said, simple changes that need to be made for people.
The public's perception. There's been no public information film. What do you do these days if you find a dog? People still think, oh, you phone up the RSPCA or you phone the police. Nobody knows what the procedure is, and you, by law, you're meant to inform the dog warden, and that's true, isn't it? You
Yes.
can't just take the dog in and keep it, and or make some sort of, you know, put notices up. No, you have to tell the dog warden, and it may be that if you want to keep the dog, if you want to make sure it doesn't end up in a shelter and put down if no one claims it, yes, you can, as long as you work with the dog warden, there's a possibility you can keep the dog in your home while the owner.
You're allowed to keep the dog for 28 days if you found a dog. If they home check and make sure you're okay, you're a good person, you're allowed to keep a dog for 28. But if an owner comes forward, that the owner always has priority over you.
Yeah.
So if one day you're the person who finds the dog, but that was more to do within the old days, probably before microchipping, because more dogs are microchipped now. So if you found a dog and kept it, and you don't take it to be checked for a microchip or phone the dog warden, that is theft by finding, and that is serious, and that happens a lot to people. You know, you can't just find a pet and keep it. If it looks bedraggled and in a terrible state, it might have been out for 2 days, 3 days. How quickly does a dog look in a terrible state if it hasn't eaten or had food?
Yes.
You know, these dogs could belong to somebody, and they're searching for them. And failure to remember, our dogs are property. So failure to return property when there is a link, and if there's a link with a microchip, that's your unique number, theft by finding, and that you really have to follow the rules on that and get these dogs back home.
And I think there's a case going on at the moment. I'm not sure of the details, but sometimes people get into dispute, don't they? Because if someone has rehomed a dog through a rescue, and the rescue didn't check the chip, and the first time they find out the dog was originally stolen is many years later, there can be a dispute where the new owner feels that it's not their fault that they fell in love with this dog, and the old owner wants their dog back. And there's been court cases, hasn't there, where people have had to fight because in the law we only own the microchip, we don't necessarily own the dog that the microchip is implanted into, which is another anomaly. Most people assume the microchip is proof of ownership, but you must have dealt with some of these awful cases over the years where the nightmare just continues. It's so, I don't know, it was rushed through, the microchipping thing. I don't think anyone really thought it through, because it could be such a marvellous way of us knowing that we get our dogs back, but nobody seems to treat it really seriously.
It's really heartbreaking, because I was part of the Microchipping Alliance. Clarissa Baldwin from Dogs Trust put up a whole committee of people, and it was all the big charities, RSPCA, PDSA, Blue Cross, the vets, Royal College of Vets, BVA, you name it. It was a huge party of people, and I felt very privileged to have been asked, but I was the voice of the pet owner, you know, from the other side of the industry, because they weren't really thinking, you know, they make the money from the chip. They were trying to, the way they sold microchips to the government was to save money on stray dogs. So I was a lone voice saying, yes, but what about stolen dogs? What about this dog? I actually made very good friends with Andy Patinelli, who was from DEFRA, and he was the guy who came in at the final meeting. You know, everybody was very tense with all these things going to be agreed and everything. And I'd been blasting him with stuff about, if it's not compulsory to scan, we're going to have the same problems carrying on. And there he was, first time we'd met, and I was sitting right opposite him. And every time he said, "Well, what's wrong? You know, how wonderful microchipping is. You'll get your dog back, da, da, da." And I'd pipe up with it, "If it's scanned, if somebody scans it." And, and I could see the penny was dropping. He was getting the message with me. And right at the end of the meeting, Robin Hargreaves, who was the BVA president, who was seeing through the microchipping, he stood up in the meeting and he said, "Well, Debbie," he said, "I just thought you'd like to know that we've decided to make scanning microchips best practice." And I thought, "Oh my God, I can't believe."
Yeah, wow.
You. And, you know, and after that, he shook my hand, and Andy Patinelli and I both looked at each other, and how naive I was. I was so stupid. I didn't realize that best practice was a chosen thing, that you didn't have to do it. So, you know, after a year, of course, I thought, "Oh, I'm back to square one. I've missed my opportunity." That time had gone, you know, and I was that close to DEFRA, to making a difference, and I lost it. I feel like I let everybody down.
No.
You know,
I mean,
those moments.
when someone says, "I'm going to sort this out and we're going to make it best practice," you think, well, that's great, but there is resistance, isn't there? I think that the veterinary profession were worried about being in the middle, weren't they? That if they scanned a dog and found it was stolen, there'd be rather an unseemly fight. I think that they just didn't want to be in the middle of it. They wanted to just treat the dog.
But there's, I mean, I've done so many different things. When they said they didn't have the time to scan the chips, I found somebody who could make a microchip scanner that would scan the chips and tell them that the dog was stolen.
Yeah.
Do they use it? No, they just use it as a microchip scanner. They're cheap. They're Halo microchip scanner. It's got the technology that if they download the software, all the missing microchip numbers go onto this scanner and they scan the dog and it's there. So that's the time issue sorted. I thought I'd done. We then met with Royal College veterinary surgeons, and I think it was Jackie Moulinet who was the president at the time. And she was very off with me at the start, didn't know what I was going to, you know, how I was going to come across to her. And I just asked her what she knew about microchips, about the databases, and she knew nothing, basically. She didn't know how many databases there were. And she said, "What do you want us to do?" And I said, "Look, I can't have vets coming to me asking me what they should be doing. This should be coming from you. You need to create something for your vets to tell them what they should do." And from that, we had the Royal College flowchart. So they've got a flowchart. So if a dog comes into them, they know what they can do, what they can't do. So I've tried all these different things to make it easier, and we still have got the problem. If a vet has got a dog that is in front of them that is stolen, they either contact the database or they can contact the police. They don't have to do it in front of the person that's standing there. You know, it's not, it's simple things. Again, it's not difficult.
No, and yeah. Gosh, so you did, I mean, how many years were you doing the Vets Get Scanning before you helped everyone join together to do Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance? Because that seemed to be like, right, okay, let's all get together on this and all fight. When did that happen?
It wasn't long after when I realised I'd been stupid and I'd trusted in people. And I thought, I'm going around in circles on my own here. I need to work with other people. Obviously, Dog Lost have been doing amazing work with all their dogs. You know, they work with the police. They know what is what with everything with the dogs. So they were an easy pick. Pet theft awareness had just started, and they'd started awareness for cats and also horses. There are a lot of horse theft, actually, which we probably don't hear as much about, but it's happening. And the dog union, Arno Wilson, who's been in the dog world for many, many years, and he's a wise head. You know, he's cool and calm, and he was a good person. So the four of us got together and we started the Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance, and with the aim of campaigning and getting to Parliament, because going to do the shows and the public and asking for support and then asking vets to help, it wasn't working. We had to change tact. So in 2014 we started, and Neil Parish MP launched us with Angela Smith MP, who were both DEFRA, EFRA MPs at the time. And Mark the Vet obviously was there to support us. He's always been supporting us. And we started to make changes straight away, you know, and getting into people. And the MP that was very vocal about dog theft was, I can't remember his name now. Oh my God.
Was it
you've met him?
Gavin? Or was it Ross?
It's a,
Gavin?
No, I have to come back to it, but he did a dog theft awareness day with us. And Johnson, Gareth Johnson.
Very good, well done.
And he'd been very vocal, and he'd been on at the Sentencing Council about there being a separate definition for dog theft within the Theft Act, all the things that we've been trying to get. And we had the first Dog Theft Awareness Day in Parliament, and we had a drop-in event, and it was just amazing. I mean, so many MPs came in. Our board was filled with signatures, and we had loads of photographs, and it showed us that they were human, they did care, and they could help. And we've continued with their support over the last 6 years it's been now. So closer and closer, ebbing forward.
No, that's the thing, is that you had to learn how to lobby.
Yes.
So it's another skill that you've accumulated along the way, and you've discovered the drop-in, because these are things that other people, if they need to change the world, you have to find. Was your local MP helpful?
Well, Amber Rudd was my MP down here, and she actually was very good. She started off being very good. She wrote a letter to Michael Gove at the time, who was the DEFRA minister, who you get the same letter back, you know, that it's best practice and it's a recommendation that vets are going to scan, and the same really with the pet theft, you know, everything's fine as it is. We don't need to change anything. Well, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if it was all okay. we do need changes, and my new MP is Sally Ann Hart, and when she got in, I actually wrote to all new MPs to welcome them and to tell them about us. And I wrote to my own MP, and she was actually a magistrate, and she's got a dog, and she was absolutely on it. Like, I can't tell you, she was wonderful. So that was heaven. So she's, you know, dog theft isn't right, and vets should be scanning. So that was fantastic.
So you discovered fairly early on, I should imagine, that theft of a dog was only covered by an ancient piece of legislation called the Theft Act, and that under the definition of the law, dogs are chattel, so they're just property. And it takes a bit of unpicking the law, doesn't it? Because it's not terribly friendly. And when you read it, actually, you have to then read the sentencing guidelines, because, and that, you know, really, you have to go on a crash course in the law. But we did better than that, didn't we, in the Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance? Because you've got Mr. Cooper, John Cooper, who's on this Facebook Live next week, on our birthday, Debbie. I'm working on my birthday. Can you believe?
Oh no!
We both have the same. But it is complicated, isn't it? It's because I thought like there were lots of different laws, like there'd be a law against blackmail, there'd be a law against, because we don't need to know these things, do we? We just assume justice works. And it's only when you start unpicking the bit you know about, you suddenly realize, actually, this is really archaic. And I was looking at just legislation generally, and because it's also old, it doesn't reflect the society as it is today. For dogs dogs are things in the law, whereas they're obviously not, are they? If we have someone steals our phone or our wallet, we don't need counselling. We just get a new phone, we claim on the insurance. But the law sees it as the same crime. It looks at the value of the phone, it looks at the value of the dog. And that's shocking, isn't it? That the law is obviously just a bit out of date. Just like in the olden days, it was tremendously sexist, and there was loads of other problems with the law, and we've kept reformed. So pet theft reform is way overdue. But also we've seen some successes in the last year or two. We've seen, as you mentioned already, Finn's Law and Lucy's Law again came from the public rather than the charity sector, and that's been humans going, that's really wrong. A dog is not a thing. And that Finn's Law particularly showed that awful thing that if someone stabbed a police dog, it was seen as the same as snapping a wing mirror off a car. I mean, it obviously isn't the same. And, bless him, Dave, Finn's owner, really, that was obviously broken, and that was fixed. Lucy's Law, again, we were all behind that one. And, that's broken. So pet theft would seem to be the perfect trilogy. Let's get pet theft reformed and make it reflective of the actual real damage it does in society to have someone steal your dog. Because you've run Facebook pages that help other people, the Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance and Vets Get Scanning. You've got communities where you see the harrowing stories that people are going through. But we also have seen the other end of this, haven't we? That very, very few of these cases ever result in anybody being charged. How do you feel about that? That even when somebody...
On my board here, I've got two pugs. I've got Betty and Harry. And this is the example which just shows you how wrong the system is. Harry and Betty were stolen from a home. The thief was found. He was taken to court about 9 months later. This was in December 2018. Yes, 2018. And then the punishment was £200 compensation, £400 costs, and the two dogs are still missing. Now, on the report sheet from the court, it actually says the theft is referred to as walk-in theft. There's no mention of dogs because the house was burgled. So that's where the dogs are hidden. So the judge probably didn't even know that there were dogs stolen. And these two dogs, both microchipped, I have to say as well, are out there. And the thief has paid £200 for £600 costs and compensation. What message does that say to the dog thief? And that sort of sums up the whole situation as far as I'm concerned. That's the case which you go, this isn't working. This isn't working. It's seen as a low risk, high reward crime. Dogs can be sold on, they can be used for breeding, they can be used for, some people wait for rewards and ransoms as well. So, that's another side of it. But unless you have the deterrents in place, this is going to continue and it's going to get worse. We've read stories where there's a little dog called Waffle that's missing now, and the lady was attacked with a knife and the dog was taken. The heartbreaking story is a 70-year-old lady last year who was walking along the road with her little chihuahua. A man bends down, strokes the dog, unclips the lead, off he goes. And these are things, how do you stop that? You can't stop that. People say, you can't have been looking after your dog properly if it was stolen. And, people get terrible abuse online from people, which is terrible, and then you get people phoning up saying they've got the dog or the dog's dead or I want the reward. I mean, sometimes I know we're meant to be a nation of dog lovers, or animal lovers, but sometimes you do wonder.
It is disturbing because when the latest petition that got to 100,000, I mean, because it really is, Debbie won't give up, will you? And we've had Dr. Daniel Allen from Keele University has become a bit of a petition genius as well. So he's
genius, absolute genius.
Yes, so he's on 2 of these petitions now, but this one, it's got another one, hasn't it? It was a 3. I'm losing track, but I know there's another one we can sign. We'll put all these at the end.
We've got one in the waiting, which has got about 27,000. We haven't pushed it, and we're waiting for the decision from the minister. So it's in his lap at the moment. If he says no, we're not going to change, then we go for the 100,000 on that petition. Absolutely, not going to let it go.
Where we are at the moment, because I think we're at a pivotal point where we could actually, if everybody watching this emails their MP and says you want them to do something, it might actually push this over the line a little bit, because it was during COVID that well, actually it wasn't. When we got to 100,000 on the latest petition, we had Brexit. We're really having the best of luck with these things. And then we also had a change of leader as well, didn't we? Because it was
roving of Parliament stopped as well. So we had a debate in place on the 11th of November, which got stopped. So we've really been up against it.
Yeah. So we've been held over, and we're obviously long overdue having our Westminster Hall debate this time. But we've already had one of those, and bless them. I mean, we covered it in the magazine. So many MPs stood up and talked about their own dogs, talked about cases in their constituencies. Absolutely everyone who stood up in that last debate thought we needed better pet theft deterrents. And then right at the end, Mr. Eustace stood up and said, everything's okay. We don't need anything. It's all right. And everyone went, there's something wrong here, because of why are we here if it's all right? And John Cooper, the QC who's on next week, was sitting next to me. He nearly had a heart attack because he was going, well, the judges don't know that they're meant to be able to, give proper sentences. So it was very frustrating, wasn't it? And we just felt that there was so much confusion as to why would the government think it was already okay? And none of the MPs said a word against there being any, because the Pet Theft Act is very specific about bicycles and mushrooms, no mention of pets. And there's also, because there was a huge problem with scrap metal being stolen, and it was very disruptive, and it was very annoying because they were taking metal off church roofs and they were taking them off the railways and causing disruption. They decided to make a separate little act about scrap metal to stop people finding it so profitable. And their change reduced the theft of metal really hugely. So we know deterrents work. Criminals talk to each other and they go, do not steal metal off the railways because you'll end up going to prison for a very long time. And that we found that ourselves, didn't we, when we looked into this? Because, suddenly we're becoming super sleuths and looking up criminal cases and finding precedents because, well, no one else is going to do it, is it? So we've got to do it. And we found that case, is it 2018? So after our last debate, where they'd told the government, said, everything's okay. Yeah, judges can, take dogs into a, emotional upset. And there'd been 15 Cavaliers stolen from a lady. And I'm not sure, but that could be just a Cavalier dog show enthusiast. I don't really know who that lady was, but she had 15 dogs stolen. The criminals threw an old one out of the car window on the motorway on the way, because obviously that one was a dud. That's no use. We won't be able to sell that one on. So they just threw it out the window. That's the only one they ever got back. The other 14, who knows where they ended up. And that's, an unsolved mystery. But they got caught. which is unusual. But because there were so many dogs involved, the financial replacement value was sizable. So 15 dogs, yeah, we're starting to look at the same price as, I don't know, some jewelry, and it's starting to sound like a normal house theft. So it's expensive. So the law only looks at the value of the dogs, doesn't it? But it was tried in the Crown Court, which is the highest law. I didn't know this until we talked to John Cooper, but apparently there's a 7-year sentence, maximum sentence for theft under the Theft Act. The only place that can ever get anywhere near the maximum is a Crown Court. So if it's magistrates, no, they're never going to get anywhere near that maximum. It's always going to be less than that. So here we had a gang that had admitted they stole these dogs. It was known they had thrown one out of a window. And then the dogs had never been recovered. They only got suspended sentences. They walked free. And yet, a few months later, relatives of these gang of 4 were tried in the same court for stealing scrap metal and went away for 12 years. Now, when I told my son that, he was just so shocked. And I just can't believe any normal person would think that that's appropriate. So we've got a really strong case here, haven't we, Debbie, that this is very wrong. And the criminals are all telling each other that, you can steal dogs.
It doesn't really matter. The judges have these charts that you've seen, which, the money value and what you should get for what theft, and if there's, but, our dogs are valued at under £500 because they're secondhand. So they're going on the value of a rescue dog. What they're not taking into account is that our dogs are priceless and irreplaceable. And there is no compensation. There is nothing that can help you. You just want your dog back. And these people need to pay the price, and if it's 2 years in prison, good. Let's get tough. Let's get, the only people that are not going to like this legislation are the dog thieves or cat thieves out there. They're the ones.
Yeah. And also, we're not actually wanting to fill the prisons with criminals. What we want is to stop them doing it. The threat of it, because it's so traumatic. We want to make it a crime that they go, oof, no, yes, you really will get in trouble if you do that. And, the problem is at the moment, as you said, high reward, low risk. And in lockdown, dogs have become so important to people that there's been a rush, like with panic bought toilet rolls. People have been panic buying dogs, and the prices have gone up and up, and the criminals have been looking and going, oh, that's serious money.
I was amazed at how many dogs were stolen during lockdown. That's been incredible. That's still all carried on, and there's been large groups of dogs taken. Luckily, there were just 6 black coats taken. Yeah. And they've just come back today, which is wonderful. All of Facebook is in like, we get so elated. It's like our dogs are coming back home.
Yeah,
we feel for all these people, and we support them and sharing. And if you ever see anybody watching, if you see a missing dog on Facebook, share it, because your share could be the one that brings it back home. Facebook and Twitter have been amazing. And there's amazing people out there that work non-stop sharing the links and the pages and it's a wonderful how people come together.
And I think that's the thing, is that the more people who realize that if we all pull together on this one and push, every pet is going to be a lot safer, because the blight on people's lives when they don't get their pet back. Clooney, the cat, how long has that cat been missing? It's been a long time.
I think she's just had I should know, because she just had the anniversary. I'll look it up for you. But she's been wonderful, because she's very proactive. She gets involved with people. Tony Clark, she's wonderful. And everybody has to be, you have to fight for this. This isn't something that's coming easy, let me tell you. I know, but you know, working together, getting these things done. There's meant, I think there's 8.5 million microchip, or 8.5 million dogs, and 9 point, God knows how many cats in the UK. We must be able to reach 100,000 on these
Yeah.
signatures.
So
I mean, it's got to be easy.
I think easy things you can do after watching this, if you feel you want to help. I'll make sure we've got the links to. I'm sure if anyone's watching, can you just post below this the links to all the recent petitions, because there's 3, I think, isn't there, that are to do with pet theft? Maybe 4. There are the more the merrier, because and
Here it is. I've got Clooney.
Yeah.
There's Clooney. I don't know if you can see on my iPad. There's Clooney. 7 years.
Very distinctive cat. I mean,
very distinctive.
Someone knows where that cat is. Yeah. Someone has seen that cat. And how long ago was it again?
7 years.
7 years.
A couple of days ago, it was 7 years since he's been gone.
7 years.
So she's wonderful, and she's had the awful upset of the microchips actually being scanned. She's traced the vets, and they can't remember it or don't have record of it. So that's another area of microchipping that isn't working for people. And that you know, can you imagine being told? I think it was last year she was told that the cat had been scanned, and dead end. You know, microchips are meant to bring them home. I must say that our petition for the scanning is the Fern's Law. And we did Fern's Law because Fern was stolen 7 years ago now, but she got back last year. She was picked up as a stray on the side of a road, and a man stopped, picked her up, took her into a vet, and they do scan stray dogs and cats, but not pets with owners. That's the difference for people.
Yes.
And Fern got home, which was, I mean, again, Facebook was lit up with pictures of Fern getting home, but it turned out she'd had a veterinary treatment during that time when her vet was checking her over, which means that she's been into a vet and she's had treatment. She wasn't scanned, and she didn't get home. So there was an opportunity for Fern to get home, and that's why we've called our campaign Fern's Law. And obviously it's asking everybody to scan and check microchip registration on first presentation, but also the dogs that they have on their books that have never been scanned and microchip checked. They should check those chips at the yearly health checks. And yes, it's going to be upsetting for people, but if vets had been on this from the start, we wouldn't have these heartbreaking stories to follow.
Oh, I think we've gone a bit wobbly on the internet. I don't know if it's you or me.
Gone quiet.
Yeah, maybe it's come back again. But yes, so we'll put links onto all of this. But because of COVID, our Westminster Hall debate on the latest petition didn't happen, and instead, a young MP called Tom Hunt. Am I right, Tom Hunt? I think that's his name, isn't it? Tom?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Tom Hunt.
Yeah.
Ipswich. He's put Ipswich.
Oh, right. So if you're in Ipswich, you've got a new MP, do write to him and tell him.
He's good.
He is. And he is on the petitions committee, which is the all parliamentary group that looks at those petitions that have reached the required number to have a debate. And because of COVID, we can't have another debate, which we didn't really particularly want another debate, because we already had a great debate last time. We all did the bit at the end where the minister has to answer. So we were involved last week, wasn't it, on the very first historic Zoom debate kind of thing, or the substitute with Tom. And are we any clear? He keeps, well, the petitions committee keep sharing little snippets from this thing, and they're really good, because Daniel did a summing up at the beginning, and lovely. I get
Freya Woodhill with her missing dog Willow.
Yeah, I end up
She was wonderful.
And dogs' names mixed up, which is I'm hopeless. But she was so just, she spoke from the heart, and you know, that's being shared on Twitter, and when the whole edited thing is ready, it's going to be so compelling that, I mean, I know by the end of it, Tom was absolutely, I'm going to sort this out. And I just hope that, you know, you can encourage your MP to be a hero or a heroine, and get behind it, because I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. You know, everything is awful. Just everything is just really upside down. But the fact is, dogs and cats are our family, and family's never been more important. And if you look back, when we got Lucy's Law, when we got Finn's Law, we thought things couldn't get any worse than they were then, because we were in the middle of Brexit and nothing was getting through Parliament. So this is something very broken that can easily be fixed, that isn't going to cost the country anything. It's just going to correct something that's wrong, because dogs and cats and all pets are family, and we just need the law to reflect that. And yeah, I think if we all push like mad, yeah, Debbie might not have to spend another 14 years.
I'm going to keep going till I've done it.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I feel like we're getting closer, and having a team like you and John and Dan and all the people that are, Caroline and Patricia, if you're all watching, and Valerie and Beryl. I mean, there's so many people. I don't want to miss anybody out, but there's just been an amazing teamwork, and all these beautiful dogs that I've had over the years trying to help. We've got Lexi there, Dana, who's got her anniversary of I think it's 4 years tomorrow. I'm not sure.
Is Lexi the Chow? Top middle.
Chow, who was taken from a garden in Devon.
Very distinctive dog. Someone must know where that dog is.
She just disappeared from the garden. Dana was she's Slough. Pepper, she's a bull terrier. She's actually belongs to a vet nurse, and the vet nurse has appealed to her own profession to try and get the industry to help and start scanning pets. You know, we've got Sky. I mean, Mick Robinson does an amazing job on Sky, and he helps so many other people now. Matty, who was the little dog who was taken in a van. Remember when all the dog walkers vans were being taken with all the dogs inside? Little Matty's still missing. Pup, Sarah Williams, who doesn't stop helping other people. Scooby, who broke my heart. He's a little Yorkie. And there's a video of him singing to Monsters Paradise. You see him howling, and this little dog. And that was a home break-in. They actually broke in and took him. Rags, of course, Caroline, who's been amazing. You know.
How many years for Rags? Rags is a
2011. She's been looking for him, and her vet actually said at one point, if Rags was sitting underneath her poster in the waiting room, he still wouldn't scan her. You know, cruel. Roxy belongs to Karen Harding, who you know from Dog Lost, who is amazing as well. I mean, all these people have carried on helping other people, and we've got little Louie there, another Yorkie, who was Birmingham, who went missing. Bill just left the door open. One of those things, never seen again. And, you know, these stories go on and on and on. Like, you know, it's just heartbreaking for people.
But they used to say on Crime Watch, don't have nightmares. But the fact is, yes, have nightmares, worry about this, let's get it fixed, because it can happen to any of us. And when it does, you know, we just don't want this to happen to other people, because it does totally destroy your faith in justice and law and order, because this is probably the only time you're ever going to need somebody to go out and get your pet back. And you don't care about anything else that's stolen. No, everything's replaceable, but family isn't. So Yes, there'll be lots of links and websites for people to join. We're almost giving Mark a run for his money, Debbie. We've done 1 hour 20 minutes, and we haven't got into your childhood yet.
Thank goodness for that.
No, there's still time. No, we probably need to tell people to act now. Email your MP, sign these petitions, share these stories on your timeline. Go to Dog Lost, register, because it's free. It's completely free. It's just amazing. And you get email updates of any lost or stolen dogs in your area. You get a poster so you can look out,
I think also it's very important because dogs are stolen at such an alarming rate that dog stolen last week is old news, and that's really upsetting for the owner. But if you're on Dog Lost, you're there, and if somebody's looking for a Jack Russell, you just type in Jack Russell, you get all the Jack Russells up, and they're constantly being checked by so many people on the internet. Double check and cross check with Dog Lost. So even if you're using other sites and that's my dog just coming in.
What an entrance!
Dinner. It's worth just putting your dog or cat and horse and bird, whatever you've got, they do all of them, but it's a record that's there. So if there is someone who's found a chow like Lexi, you can look on chows, and you'll get the chows up, and that's really important for pet owners who've got the missing pets.
And it's a brilliant resource because there was no way of quantifying before how many were stolen, because you did on your a couple of weeks ago, you did all the chihuahuas that were stolen, and it was staggering. So no one's ever going to say.
I was looking for a dog called Bella, I think it was, and there were 117 Bellas missing. And when you sort of go into the search of these different dogs, and you see some of them go back to 2004. That's how long the register is at Dog Lost. That's how long they stay online for people to find. So it's an amazing website, and Jane's done the most incredible job. I mean, she helped me. I got my dogs back with her advice, so I can't thank her enough.
No, we're all joined together, all push, help Debbie get this one over the line, because if you hadn't kept on at this, I really do worry that no one would really have been aware of this, because there's no one who disagrees with what you're doing, but nobody big has really picked it up and gone, right, we're going to put all our efforts into this. There's always been something else going on. You've made it front all the time, and that's what it should be. It needs sorting, because when it happens to you, it is the most important thing in the world. And
but when you've had, like I said, 20 years of people telling you to be a responsible pet owner and microchip your dog, you believe that the system's working. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's only when you need it you find out the system is broken.
And it is.
And it's time that the big rescues and everybody got on board to help this, because that's who DEFRA listened to. And apart from us as the public, everybody needs to work towards this. We all know it's right. We all know it should be happening. So let's hope this is the time. But petitions, sign Fern's Law, just get it going. Come on, we're 35,000, I think, and we need 100 by 4th of September. So time is running out for us.
So get sharing, everybody. My Macintosh is telling me I'm about to run out of battery, which is useless. So I think we're going to have to conclude before we're taken off air. But Debbie, thank you so much for all you've done in the last 14 years, because honestly, I mean, I think we gave you an award about a decade ago.
I still wear it.
Yes. Oh, and you, it was such a lovely day because all your family came and it was
Yes,
just
it did.
special. It was so special, and
Apparently, my granddaughter was telling everybody that's my nana. So she's still excited about that day. It was lovely. Thank you.
but yeah, you know, everyone's proud of what you've done, and it's wrong that you've had to do it, but we're going to have such a party when you get it through, and every dog owner and cat owner in this country is going to thank you, because yeah, it needed doing. But everybody out there, check the database, make sure your records are up to date, because you might think they are. So many people get there and find out no, something's happened. Some of the chips don't work. Some of them were defective, and people don't know that. Anyway, I'm going to get rudely taken off air in a second, but thank you so much, Debbie. Next week, on our birthday, because we've got a lot in common, we aren't sisters, sadly. We're going to talk to another member of the Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance, John Cooper, Professor John Cooper QC, who did lots of things to do with the Hunting Act.
He's just wonderful. I love him.
He's always on the underdog side, be it human rights or animal. And yeah, there's going to be some tales there, I suspect, because yes, he's the man who other lawyers learn cross-examination skills. So I'm going to have a hard time, I suspect. But thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you for all you do. And yeah, everyone go over to the Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance. And I'll post loads of links at the end when this goes for other people to watch later. But thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure knowing you, and I'd never have met you if it hadn't been for that awful thing that happened to you 14 years ago. But I know, cheering you on, and everything we can do to make this happen, it's worth it. Every email that people send to their MPs, it does matter. Your voice is important. Use it. This is one of the times that you can make politicians do something that makes them feel good, because they can fix this and it won't cost anything. It's just an easy win. So yeah, get in touch with your MP, become their friend, because they will love you for suggesting this. I'm telling you, you really will. Anything you want to say, Debbie, before we get rudely taken off air?
No, just everybody be careful. Check your microchip registration. Remember that dogs are stolen from gardens, out on walks. From obviously, never leave your dog outside a shop or in your car. And just be alert. Really, you have to just be on your wits and just keep your dog safe and keep safe.
Particularly in gardens, beware of delivery drivers. There's been cases, haven't there? Yeah. So just be aware that other people may look at your dog and see pound signs. So
and just look at your security, your house security, because burglaries, there's no stopping. You just got to be the safe house, and if they go next door to get something else, great. Just check your own security. Your dog is worth it. So and sign the petition. Burns law.
Right, I'm going to get all those on to the edit. We're going to have it so that people won't be able to go away without knowing. Right, thank you so much. Yes, it's about to die. I'm on 3%.
Bye-bye, Beverley. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, thank you. You're absolute superstar. Thank you very, very much. Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
What can you do to help? Hopefully you're absolutely motivated now and you want to get on with it. Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance.co.uk, vetsgetscanning.co.uk and doglost.co.uk. Fern's Law, we mentioned earlier. You remember the dog that had been missing for years and had actually been seen by a vet but hadn't been scanned in that time. Had been used as a breeding slave. It was a young dog when she was stolen. When she was finished, looks like she was turfed out and she was found as a stray and a vet scanned. Now, if vet scanned at every first appointment, we'd get an awful lot more back. bit.ly/Fern2020. Go on, get on the government website, sign that one. Make sure you check your inbox because they'll send you an email to confirm your identity. Please. bit.ly/Fern2020. Do it and share it on your timeline. This one is to make pet theft a specific offence. Protect them like the bicycles, like the scrap metal. bit.ly/pet theft 2020. bit.ly/pet theft 2020. That's a shortcut that'll get you straight on the government website. And again, check your inbox. Each time you sign, they'll want you to confirm. And these really do make a difference, these petitions. It's a way of politicians working out how significant this is to their constituents. So drop them a line. Go on, get in touch. Now these are the close-ups of the missing pets posters that you'll find on Dog Lost. These are dogs we've mentioned, or cats that we mentioned earlier in the programme. So this, hopefully, you'll be able to find these easily if you need to refer to them, or if you can even, those are the pork pugs. Yeah, please. And here's just a sample of the other stolen dogs that are on doglost.co.uk. So many lives here, just on hold, waiting for news. There was 15 pages, so that's double what you see on the screen. 15 pages of these. Just unbelievable how much suffering behind each one of those photos. Please do spend a bit of time, go on Dog Lost, register so that you get emails in your area if any dogs are lost or missing or stolen. You'll hear about them first if you register. And next week, come back. Wednesday, 7 o'clock, Dogs Today magazine, Facebook. We'll be doing a live interview with Professor John Cooper QC, an amazing man who uses his intellect to look after the underdog, and he's helping us with pet theft, but he's also very involved in breed-specific legislation and getting rid of that, hopefully. And also the ban on trophy hunting is one of his latest things. But a very interesting man, inspired by watching Crown Court on television to become a lawyer. Came up the hard way. Really, really excellent chap. Really, really delighted to have him as patron or legal advisor on pet theft reform. Right, looking forward to that one. And the week after that, we've got Jordan Shelley and how I ruined his life. Anyway, see you again soon. Keep safe and give that dog a hug from me.